News Talk 1340 KROC AM. Good morning. I'm Andy Brownell on a Tuesday morning, a cold Tuesday morning with Tom Ostrom. It's Rochester today. Good morning, Tom.
Morning.
What's new?
Arctic cold.
Yeah, the polar vortex. Yeah. What do you want me to cheer about it?
You're always well-adjusted and happy.
No,
that makes me nervous,
not
but I'm
this.
used to it now.
Not with this.
Oh, you're good.
No.
You can't find anything positive.
No, not about the weather.
It stimulates us, though. Makes me walk faster. When
Yeah,
I'm,
it makes you, yeah. It's not even December, and I'm already sick.
Yeah, a
of
month
winter,
early.
Whatever.
Some of this.
It'll do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And
wow, this warming is getting to me. Gee. Speaking of politics, one mailbag. A listener sent this. They're at an airport. There's a sign before the security archway. If you have scissors, leave them here. If you have flammable aerosols, leave them. If you've been testing for or have Ebola in West Africa, come on through. So that's the mailbag.
all right. Well, let's get into a topic then. What do you want to start with?
Sure. Well, doggone it, that MIT economist Gruber, he's a liar. The arrogance of the professoriate, the arrogance of liberals. He admits he's telling the truth about his lying and how they misled on purpose, Office of Management and Budget and the people. He did it on purpose. That's the way it passed. Nancy Pelosi, the former Speaker of the House, says she has no idea who he is. Videos from a few years ago has Nancy naming him and thanking him for his contributions. He's made over $1 million being a consultant. He's taken almost $400,000 out of Minnesota.
I had read that too.
Consulting. And so now President Obama comes on, and he's asked about it by Fox, no other journalist, and he says what he always says about ISIS or about about Fast and Furious or about the IRS. I just found out about that, and I'm mad as the dickens, and we'll get to the bottom of it. And then he says, but he wasn't an advisor. What a slippery phrase. He wasn't his advisor. No, he was a consultant, and he was at the White House many, many times. I don't know if this is going to have an effect on the Supreme Court decision as they look at Obamacare again. Or,
I don't think it could.
Or the public.
I mean, the court has to look at legal issues. It can't look at these political issues because that's what this is a political issue. This is regardless of how the bill was constructed, it was constructed and it was approved by Congress and it was signed by the president. Whether the provisions of the law are constitutional is for the court to decide, but whether or not they mounted a campaign to deliberately mislead the American people is a whole other issue. That's completely in the political realm, not in the legal realm.
Well, I agree with you for the most part, but the Supreme Court has to decide if a statement in the legislation means what it says, that it was state, what do you call it, agencies or something.
Right.
The state has to do this. If judges are reading that, and now the Democrats say, oh, we didn't mean to restrict it to the state. When we said state, it was a typo. If it's in the judge's mind that deception ruled their phraseology, it could influence, I think, how some judges might say, even if subliminally they're thinking of it. But who knows? But the point is, it's Saul Alinsky stuff, and it's the height of arrogance, and it's the height of end justifies the means, which is a totalitarian premise.
I can't agree with you more. And the funny part to me, and this is where these people are at, and I've seen the other side make similar types of mistakes, the Republicans, when they're in power. And you get to this level of, you're at the pinnacle politically. This is it. You have the White House. At the time, they had the House and the Senate.
Oh.
They controlled the most powerful nation to ever exist on this planet. And yet, it's Keystone Cops. You have this guy comes out number one, they knew when they rammed this thing through it was unpopular. The polling numbers have been unpopular on this thing from day one. It's even worse now. The latest Gallup poll on this thing showed that the approval rating for Obamacare is in the tank. But yet those who are supportive of it will continue to say, well, it's just because, I mean, if you read between the lines, not what they actually say, but what the meaning of their words, if you really parse it, is you Americans are just too stupid to know what's good for you.
Yeah.
And that's what this guy said.
Yeah.
He told the truth.
Yeah. He told the truth about lying.
He did. and now these people, that the people in power right now, particularly the White House, are running to the hills trying to avoid this guy and come up with these statements of, well, he wasn't in the White House, he wasn't on staff, he wasn't an advisor, he wasn't. But you were paying him.
Yeah, that's right.
And you were also praising him. There's numerous videos that show the president himself speaking and mentioning the man by name.
That's right. And he went to the Oval Office on numerous occasions. I wonder what his colleagues at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology think, what the administration thinks of this guy and his credibility, what it makes MIT look like, what his fellow economists think. Say, well, if that's your philosophy, do you do that in class? How do you manage your teaching, your research?
The man may be a genius. I'm not going to argue with that point because he may be one of these people who is so smart when it comes to numbers that he just has no, what's the term they use, interpersonal intelligence. But yet he's able to get up and speak at these events and paraphrase things he probably shouldn't paraphrase. He probably shouldn't have opened his mouth.
He's over a millionaire by consulting fees in various states and all of this, but the arrogance of it, that's the professoriate and that's the progressive intellectual mind, that the public is stupid and uninformed and incapable of running its affairs, so we have to do whatever we can to manage them and to control them. Plus the politics of it. And by the way...
But that's not exclusively a Democrat thing either. You have to admit
that's a liberal thing.
Well, okay, but I'm going to argue that during the previous administration, there were people in place who came from the same background, who were part of that administration, who would, under different policies, also mislead American people in order to promote those policies.
Well, I think when Republicans do it, it's because they're so inarticulate. But anyway, now Jonathan Gruber is also linked to getting Obamacare for illegal aliens. Now, Obama has said in the past he's not an emperor and he can't do things unilaterally. Well, he's changed his mind about that. And then he said, and years ago, Obama said illegal aliens are a threat to employment and to wage levels and to the minority community. Well, he's changed his mind on that. But Gruber is linked to saying we can get Obamacare to illegal aliens. If we give them amnesty, they're no longer illegal. So then we can give them Obamacare. He's even been philosophizing about that. Wait till you find that one out coming up the road.
But he's not an advisor, Tom.
Oh, okay.
So
don't have to worry about it.
All right, we have to take our break. It's 14 degrees out, and it's 19 past 10 o'clock Tuesday morning here at KROC AM. Roscoe's Root Beer and Ribs. The 4th Street location is closed, but that doesn't mean that Roscoe's has gone away for the winter. The North location is open. They've got the barbecued ribs. They've got the pulled pork. They've got the barbecued chicken. They've got those wonderful beans. They've got the cornbread. They've got the JoJo potatoes. I could be here for a half an hour. But they also can take care of you for your Christmas gifts or your holiday gifts. Go out to Roscoe's and get those gift cards. You can hand them out. They're perfect stocking stuffers.
Yeah, the black-eyed pea salad, the green beans, the mashed potatoes. Now, we know they got great barbecue beef and barbecue pork and barbecue chicken and a great barbecue sauce that's award-winning. But these sides really are wonderful, especially on a hot day. And baked potatoes and collard greens and salads along with it. It's a great place for lunch or dinner. And even when you have the gang or friends or family come for Thanksgiving, why don't you go down to Roscoe's and get a little bit of extra good food?
And they'll love it if it shows up on the table. That's Roscoe's Root Beer and Ribs. The North location up by Shopco North is open all year round. It's 24 minutes past 10 o'clock. I'm Andy Brownell with Tom Ostrom. It's Rochester Today. And we were talking about the whole Obamacare business and the MIT numbers guru who kind of got everybody into hot water with his by running at the mouth about the what he says was the strategy for getting Obamacare into law.
And arrogance and deception.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And you and I kind of did a little spar, and I was pointing out the previous administration, and I didn't say who I was thinking of when I brought that up.
Because you hadn't thought of anyone
No,
yet.
I had it in my head.
Now you have.
I think Donald Rumsfeld came in, and I think he was deliberately misleading about some of the things that led to some foreign policy decisions. And I look back at some of the covert operations that were used, the overseas interrogation centers, which were probably extra constitutional at the point, and the way he also carried himself in a way that if you were in disagreement with his policies, you were just stupid.
Yeah, that I agree.
And it's the same type of arrogance I get off of this administration.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He wouldn't take advice. He's like President Obama. He wouldn't take advice from his even. Now, he was head of the Pentagon, and he wouldn't take advice from his generals. He thought they were all stupid if they disagreed with him, just like President Obama and the Saul Alinsky method. Keep going, keep charging, intimidate and insult your adversaries. But Rumsfeld was that way, yeah, and he was he thought he was smarter than everybody, yeah, and he enjoyed going after the press that didn't help him. But there's an arrogance of power.
There is,
yeah, you bet.
And I think you're going to see that regardless who holds the position, and we as American people should always be on guard against it because it leads to bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And as in the case of Obamacare, I think the cause is a noble cause. The idea that we have this monstrous problem in the United States of our healthcare industry gobbling up an unbelievable amount of our gross domestic product, an unbelievable amount of our discretionary income is being vacuumed into this healthcare machine, and an enormous amount of that money is being wasted for a variety of reasons. And the Republicans, I think, have some good ideas for addressing some of that, and I think some of the Democrat ideas are also worthy of consideration. But this thing, this giant government apparatus that we developed through the Affordable Care Act has done absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely nothing to address the main issue of the day, which is the ever-growing cost of health care in this country. I think it's made it available to additional people through government subsidies, but I don't think it's really taken care of what we were all clamoring about in the first place, and we all knew heading into this back in the mid-2005, 2006 range that we're all seeing a bigger chunk of our paychecks disappear every month because our employers were having to spend unbelievable amounts of money to provide us with health insurance, and they started to pass the buck along to us because to remain competitive, they couldn't afford to keep doing that. And I've only seen it get worse.
And they've reduced hours and redefined full-time jobs. And the Obamacare thing, it was well-intentioned, but it's extra costly now. And you just wonder, I think Republicans might be able to get some of their legislation over to the Senate, and Democrats too, and they'll cooperate about that. And the pipeline now, if President Obama vetoes those things, and he's got to put up with Republican chairs now of committees that can go back and look at these scandals. But it's the onus is on him. I think you're right. Democrats and Republicans will craft and allow legislation. Will the president allow signatures?
I do not believe that there will be a very significant dismantling of Obamacare. I don't think that's going to happen. I know there's people who will be clamoring for it, but I pragmatically don't think it will happen. Good morning. You're on KROC.
Hey, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention that the biggest problem I can see with Obamacare or the health care issue is that we're not dealing with the true issue. Is like medications right now in the United States, we pay twice as much as what Canada does, even though we buy a lot more. So we should actually be getting it at less than half the price or half the price what we're getting it now for. At least get it for it the same as what Canada does. That's one thing. That's tens of billions of dollars a year right there.
That's true.
And then on top of that, when the Social Security system was set up, it was not functioning quite properly. And what happened is Congress got together the Republicans and the Democrats got together and fixed it. And the biggest thing is right now the U.S. is paying twice as much if you gave health care to everybody in the United States, divided it out, looked at other countries in the world, and you take the best one. We are paying twice as much per person, per capita, per person, for health care than they are. And we actually, if you look at our rating, we actually, like Minnesota is one of the highest ones at 95% insured health care, is that we are not getting we actually are right now, they're getting, the healthcare system actually pays you for how many testing you do.
Yep.
So if you're in California or different parts of Florida or whatever, Texas, they actually test you so much that they basically charge almost twice as much as what they do in Minnesota. But Minnesota has a better result. You have a healthier
we're not getting enough bang for our buck. Because if you look at the amount of money we spend, we should be the healthiest society in the world.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, we are actually, right now, without even blinking an eye, we could say, Congress could pass a bill and say, right now we're going to bid it, and we're not paying anything more than what Canada pays. We save 50% on our medications right there, and that'd be tens of billions of dollars a year right there, without even blinking an eye. But Congress won't do that because they've got people in their pocket.
I think you raised some very good points, but our pharmaceuticals cost a lot because our companies do research. Canada doesn't. And I think a lot of the costs are over testing, as you said, but that's to protect them from trial lawyers and lawsuits.
That's part of it too. I will argue
lots of truth.
I think that the pharmaceutical argument about the research is overstated. I think that we do shoulder more of the world's share of that research cost. But whether you could translate that into a ratio that explains the high expense that we pay, I don't think the numbers add up.
Oh, I think the cost is for research costs.
I think the profit margin is extraordinary.
It really would be, but it's not.
Yeah.
I got to run for news.
I got to put this into testing, and she tells me the opposite.
A lot of the testing is done at the university level, which is publicly funded.
Mm-hmm.
Right, absolutely. You got it right there. We're paying for it, but we're being charged for it twice. Twice as much in U.S. pays.
We still got the best medical system in the world, though, because people don't have waiting lines, and people waiting on lists, and people are exposed to more sophisticated and advanced technology, which costs a lot of money.
But I would also point out that as this continues to trend, the sheer cost of it is providing de facto rationing, that people are not going to get the care they need because of the way the insurance plans are structured with these super high deductibles, and you could go in for
insurance companies are making the money.
You can go in for
you're absolutely right.
One what is now considered routine test. You go get a CT or an MRI, and you will eat up your entire out-of-pocket deductible.
But Obamacare has contributed to that high deductible, and Obamacare has catered to these insurance companies so that they can make this profit. I don't like that either.
What you have to remember is that under President Obama this last year, or this last 7 years or whatever, or the last 6 years, we've had the slowest insurance rate changes in the last 20 years.
I will
check it out. And the thing is, it's actually slowed down. But
you talk to people in the street who are in private plans through employer provided. They will tell you a totally different story.
Right, and that's the problem.
So where's the mismatch?
The problem is, if you look at where we're at, the people, I'm in the middle class, where some of us are, I'm paying the highest rate that you can possibly pay. I'm paying basically almost the whole bill. If you basically don't have anything, you get a super sweet deal.
And
so I'm subsidizing them. And that's where the single-payer system fixes all that. But
you made your point. I got to run, though.
Congress won't let us do it. Thank you.
Yeah, you made your point. Yeah, it is. It's going to come down to that argument at some point. I agree that are you going to do the single-payer system, or are we going to do this mishmash hybrid that doesn't apparently work? It's 13 in the downtown at KROC AM. Roscoe's Root Beer. What am I doing? I did this again, Tom. I get mixed up with my schedule here. We have to talk about our friends at Carol's Cup and Carol's Corn, who have those delicious tins of Chicago mixed popcorn, whatever flavor you'd want of popcorn, that they can ship anywhere, virtually anywhere in the world, if you get your order in time and have it there in time for the holidays to provide your loved ones or just somebody who you like a lot with a wonderful Christmas gift from Carol's Cup and Carol's Corn in the subway level of the Kaler Grand Hotel.
Oh, yeah, get one of those tins. You get a huge bag. Bring it up to the office. Bring it home for your guests that are coming for the Thanksgiving holidays. The Gourmet Popcorn Shop, Carol's Corn, in the Kaler Subway. They cater to local clients, national clients, and the main flavors of popcorn, regular, caramel with cashews, cheddar cheese, white corn without salt, and more flavors than that. And the popcorn is fresh, made every day. And orders can be made the week of your special event. And they even have candy-coated flavors of corn.
That is right. At Carol's Cup and Carol's Corn, Subway level, Kaler Grand Hotel. And don't forget the delicious frozen yogurt and the toppings with Carol's Cup at Apache Mall. Newstalk 1340 KROC AM. It's already 20 minutes away from 11 o'clock. I'm Andy Brownell with Tom Ostrom. 282-1234 is our number. And, Thomas, we have a couple callers who have been holding on through the news break, so we're going to jump straight to the phone lines. Good morning. You're on KROC with Tom and Andy.
Good morning.
Morning.
I noticed your last caller talked about Canada. In Canada, the health care law, when it was passed, was 12 pages in length, which a fifth grader could understand. And the Obamacare law is 2,500 pages. And the rules and regulations are more than 20,000 pages and still being added to. I'd like you to comment on the comparison there with Canada and the U.S., with their law being only 12 pages long. Thank you.
Well, thanks for the call. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you look at it is, the Canadians, their approach to this is different, and they have their own issues as well. If you run into a broken bone, a relatively routine problem, if you're going to go with an ear infection or you have something that a medication would likely address, if you have a chronic condition, which, that is a big part of what's gobbling up our healthcare dollar in this country, is the diabetes epidemic, obesity, asthma, the things that we all live with, whether it be a chronic heart problem or something. The Canadian system seems to work really, really well with those kinds of issues. It's when you get into the more exotic treatments of a brain tumor, some sort of surgery that requires an enormous amount of expertise and technical assistance. It doesn't work out that well there, and those are the people who are paying cash and flying across the border and seeking treatment here. Ironically, we have people in this country who are getting on jets and flying to India to seek treatment because their medical system is gaining in its sophistication and able to provide some of this care. But they love that health system up there in Canada. And the British, who have all sorts of problems, unbelievable problems with their health system, it doesn't seem like you can go by a week where they uncover some healthcare facility that's had problems that make the VA scandal pale in comparison. But they love that national health system over there as well.
They do, because no one is deprived of service, and it's marginal cost to them. But the waiting lines are significant. The selectivity of who has priority, the access to high technology is less adequate than it is in the United States. So, as you say, wealthy Canadians come here. We have people who like Canadian drugs because they cost less, and Americans can go elsewhere. But it's such a complicated system, and whether solutions are government-run or single-payer or some marketplace solutions, I really think the Democrats and Republicans are in a mood to compromise and marketplace sophistication that the Republicans like, and access that the Democrats like, and so do Republicans. And we'll see how it goes. But if I don't think President Obama would allow many significant changes to his prime legislative achievement in his mind. And then if he starts vetoing that and other things, the onus will be on him. I think Democrats are going to start falling away from the dictatorship too. And then there are all these interest groups, and you and I have talked about it. It makes solutions difficult to achieve.
You, ironically, seem a little bit more optimistic than I. I don't see any mood for compromise in Washington, D.C. at all. I just see people hunkering down and ready for a long war and waiting for 2016. And it seems to be the pattern. And these elections don't seem to resolve anything. All it leads to is, well, let's go and look at our strategy for 2 years from now, and we'll do whatever we can to thwart any progress on either side of whatever issue you stand on until the next election.
Well, that's true, but I think this last election showed the voters are tired of it. They said, stop this and stop what's going on, including the Democrats and Harry Reid and his blocking of legislation, even Democrat legislation that disagrees. And I see some Democrats falling away. Some voted against the placement of Harry Reid in a leadership position this time around. But if it falls into survival and principle and interest groups and money sources and the lockstep, then you're right. We got more chaos for 2 years.
All right, we do have a bunch more callers. I don't think my English grammar was very correct there, but we have a great deal of business to deal with. Good morning. You're on KROC. Thanks for calling in.
Hello, this is Jim Baker.
Oh, hey, Jim.
The Tea Party. I'll make it quick, but I'm going to comment, too, on your last discussion here. I'm calling to let your listeners know that on Thursday, this coming Thursday, the 20th, we have got a fantastic program called Liberty Seed, and it's a very entertaining, patriotic program that delves in to one date in history, April 19th, 1775, and that's the day after Paul Revere's ride, when the British marched on Lexington and to take the guns away from the people. And our speaker, name is John Riley. He dresses up in period, and he delves into stories of that day, things you've never heard of before. Drills down, and you'll learn about who actually fired the shot that was heard around the world. Hopefully everybody knows what I'm talking about there, and what happened at Lexington Green, in Northbridge, and so on. It's a very patriotic and entertaining program. Now, this is going to be over at the Ramada Event Center, back behind TJ Maxx Plaza. We have our programs over at the Eagles Club, but I screwed up in scheduling, and so we're over at the Ramada. So that's Thursday night, 7 o'clock. The program will begin, meet and greet at 6:30, and the Ramada is located at 1517 16th Street Southwest. So
once again,
free and open to the public.
Once again, plenty of parking.
And just to comment back on what you were talking about previously, the Canadian health system, I'll just take 30 seconds and I'll be out of here. Our last program that we had last month, we had Canadian doctor Lee Carisco down, who practiced medicine under the Canadian system, and then moved down here about 10 or 12 years ago and practiced medicine. It was frightening to hear him describe his experience in the Canadian system. Having listened to him, it's hard to believe that people love the Canadian system.
Give us an example of the horror.
Sure, I'll tell you one example. It was, he had a picture that he put up on the screen. Said that to get medical care up there, you have to have a general practice doctor supporting you. Otherwise, you don't get in the system. And he said there's so few of them that a significant percentage of the population don't have one. He said in his town, a new one came to open up a practice, and he showed a picture of a line that must have been 100 people long, waiting to sign up to get to be a patient of this doctor. And then the other thing that he said is the person that took the picture was in the middle of the line, and he said the line was just as long behind him. So he said it's really hard to get care up there. And you had mentioned if you need anything of any sophistication, then they'd really have to come down here. That's he certainly talked about that too. Yeah, but you have other callers.
Yeah, thanks. But the scary thing about that is the trend we're seeing in the United States is towards the same sort of difficulty. You have an issue where seeing a general, especially in rural areas of this country, is getting extraordinarily difficult. People having to travel hundreds of miles to see a general practitioner, and those same gateways are being developed in this country, and we're even starting to be developed before Obamacare came about, that you need that referral from that GP before you can get into the specialist, and then the wait. Even now, the wait lines for what are oftentimes routine surgeries are getting here in Rochester with the Mayo Clinic 6-9 months out.
Well, and as we
so
hear
you're starting
about,
to see it here.
Yeah, and as we hear about so many doctors deciding to retire rather than deal with this new medical environment, it can only get worse. It's scary as I'm getting older, and us older people need more care. This is a frightening time, I'll tell you.
People need to be paying attention, that's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thank you,
Appreciate
Jim.
your call.
Yeah, bye now.
We do have a bunch of calls. Good morning. You're on KROC. Thanks for holding on.
Hello?
Hi, good morning.
Hey,
I wasn't sure it was me.
Yes, it is.
we're not sure it's you either.
As you know, this program is absolutely one of my favorite programs. But enough said. This Canadian crap drives me nuts listening to it about how wonderful it is. As you may recall, I lived a period of time in Duluth, Minnesota. You could go into the Duluth Clinic parking lot and you'd see between 25 and 40% of the cars that were parked in there with Canadian license plates on it. Why? Because they had needs for medical procedures that were not being discharged in the country of Canada. I have nothing against Canada. I was in a restaurant, and I heard these two people talking. The
one I like is
and they said,
I like when they say I like it when they say a boot.
A boot.
Anyhow, they said they were talking to each other, and I walked over to them as I'm known to do and speak to total strangers, and I said, "Boy, your people are fortunate living up in Canada with that outstanding medical system you have up there." They nearly leaped out of the booth. And I've told this story perhaps in this show before. They had not one, but 3 friends with severe heart problems. Surgery seemed to be a necessity to correct their problem. All 3 of those people died before they were treated.
Yeah, that is I think if you read up on it, that is the big failing. They seem remarkably good at taking care of the low-level chronic issue, but when it gets to be serious, the way it's, I mean, the term is rationing. The way it's rationed out is it causes exactly what you're talking about.
And as far as Obamacare is concerned, if people would just stop and think, first of all, he doesn't give a rat's patoot about your health or my health any more than the man in the moon. But it's power and it is control. And you're going, maybe I'll live long enough, maybe I won't, but we're going to see a high incidence of dying as a result of this.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks
got
for
more
listening.
calls. Yeah, thanks for your call.
Thanks for boosting our positive attitudes here. Jeez.
Good morning. You're on KROC. Thanks for calling.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
About that boy or that officer that shot that colored boy, and then now the governor's going to send out the National Guard. He hasn't even tried yet, and are convicted. And we all have to go by the judicial system, and we all live by that. And it's a shame that he's worried about if he's not convicted. He's almost convicted before he's even went to trial, the way I look at it, because if he doesn't get convicted or something like that, all hell's going to break loose. And it's a shame that has to happen, because it shouldn't happen. I mean, we don't know all the facts, and we have to go by our peers. And that's the way I look at it. I'm going to hang up and listen.
All right.
Thank you.
Well,
thanks a lot for the call.
The FBI has warned law enforcement departments all over the country that if the Ferguson officer is not charged, there are going to be riots, and police departments all over the country will be vulnerable and watch.
I think that's pragmatism. I think that they have intelligence on the ground that shows that there are people out there who have ill will, and that there is an anticipation that you're going to have a no-bill indictment, which means no charges against the officer. So I think law enforcement is probably at this point being prudent to prepare for the possibility. I hope it doesn't happen, and I hope calmer heads prevail, but you got to be ready in case it does because of what we saw this past summer. And a lot of it is these traveling anarchists. I hate to say that. They're these people who this is what they do. They move around and they try to instigate trouble, and it's part of an agenda that they wish to fulfill. Mm-hmm. We have to take our last break. We have a ton of calls. We'll try to get in as many as we can, but we do have to take care of some business as well. Victoria's Restaurante and Wine Bar is one of my favorite businesses, so we'll go to that business right now and talk about how they can help you out if you have a holiday party coming up, which a lot of you do. Their catering can make it a very special event. Their pasta-style bar and their wonderful staff and all the extras that come with it when you go to Victoria's for your catering needs.
Oh, yes. They'll prepare. You can come and get it, or you can have their wonderful staff come to your place of partying and manage and distribute and liven up the party. The pasta bar style, the options of mouth-watering entrees, the salads, the dressings, the freshly baked rolls, wines, drinks, appetizers, desserts on request, and the staff to serve you. So you can go in there and see Jason or Barb or any of the fine folks there. Call 280-6232. That's 280-6232 and book your next catering event with Victoria's Restaurante.
That's Victoria's Restaurante and Wine Bar. Remember, they're on 1st Avenue Southwest, right in downtown Rochester. KROC AM. It's already 2 minutes away from 11 o'clock. I'm Andy Brownell with Tom Ostrom on a Tuesday, 282-1234. We'll try to do what we can do with the limited time we have. Good morning. You're on KROC. Thanks for holding on for so long.
Hi, this is Pete Chaplis. I'd like to give a plug to my nephew who's going to be featured on Channel 2 tonight.
Well, tell us some more, Pete.
He has family in Rochester, and the program partially is going to be on our uncles and grandparents over in Greece. I don't know the whole story on what they're going to have. I've given these people a lot of materials
to work
Pete, on.
I got to back you up because I know who you are, and I know who your nephew is, and it's Pete. Your nephew is Stephanopoulos, George Stephanopoulos. Mm-hmm. And I know the local connection here. There's a lot of folks who are related to George. So.
Right. So Channel 2 on PBS tonight. 7 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Oh, 7. Thank you.
A Rochester
Thanks
connection.
for calling. Yeah.
Welcome.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Pete's an expert on local history.
A lot of people with Greek names in this town have a lot of relations, and I know a lot of them are connected to Stephanopoulos because I've met quite a few of them over the years, so it's interesting. It'd be interesting to go to. I know he's been in town a number of times for family gatherings and things like that, and it'd be interesting to hear. It'd be fun to be a fly on the wall to hear some of those conversations. That's for sure. Thomas, we'll see you on Friday. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. And then tomorrow it will be Steve Lang from Rochester Magazine here in the studio with Tracy McCrae and myself for the Wednesday edition of Rochester Today. It is 14 in the downtown. That's probably going to be our high today. Again, it's 11 o'clock. News Talk 1340, KROC AM Rochester.